Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video, and 10.2 is bringing in a monstrous amount of changes. I just uploaded a video covering the classes as a whole and how it's going to have an impact onto the game, which specs are looking the best. I'll have it linked at the end of this one, but this video is going to focus in on PvP specifically and what changes are coming for that aspect of the game. The first big change that we are going to see is that the Gladiator's Medallion is now going to be a 90-second cooldown for all healer specializations. Previously, it was 120 seconds or 2 minutes. So you're going to be able to trinket every minute and a half as opposed to every 2 minutes. This is a big deal. I mean, this means that healers are going to be able to escape crowd control way more frequently. And honestly, I'm not sure if I'm the biggest fan of this. Now, I do like premeditated crowd control avoidance. So things like greater fading and immunity to crowd control, or shadow or deathing and predicting crowd control and avoiding it preemptively. I think there's a skill and element involved with that. But bringing the trinket and the ability to just escape crowd control down to such a low level, to 130 seconds, or sorry, to 1 minute and 30 seconds, it's going to be tough to end games. Now, as a casual healer or a solo shuffle healer, this is probably a decent change. But in ranked 3 specifically, where you can be as coordinated as you can, this is going to be very dangerous. It is a very troubling change to see, I think, in that environment specifically. Now, for Preservation Evoker, Living Flame is no longer increased by 12%. Verdant Embrace Healing is no longer increased by 20%. You should note in the video that I covered previously that they buffed all of the healers' baseline. So these are likely changes to compensate the buffs that they are getting. It's just going to be an offset. Survival Tactics for Hunter has been redesigned. Feign Death is now going to reduce damage taken by 90% for 3 seconds. So it's not going to remove dots anymore. I think that's the one that removes dots. So instead of removing dots, you just get 90% damage, or you just get an ice block for 3 seconds. It's like faint on a pretty low cooldown. Hunter needed, strong defensive cooldowns, and honestly, I like the direction of not removing dots because it was almost impossible to even do dot damage to a Hunter. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. I was really hoping to see more rework direction for Marksmanship Hunter specifically overall in this patch, which isn't happening, at least at this time. But this is going to make it less frustrating for dot classes to kill Hunters and hopefully make them tankier into things that they were already struggling to stay alive against. Mistweaver Monk, we're seeing Enveloping Mist no longer increased in PvP combat by 15%. Vivify Direct Healing is now reduced by 20% in PvP, was previously 10. Again, these are offset changes from the healing increases that we're seeing from the specs baseline. For Holy Paladin, Holy Light is no longer increased by 47% in PvP combat. Flash of Light no longer increased by 30% in PvP combat. This is once again an offset of the changes and buffs to Holy Paladin, which you will see it's a remarkable amount of healing increase to all the healing specs pretty much. For Discipline Priest, Atonement is now 36% more effective in PvP combat, down from 89%. That's because they're baseline buffing your Atonement. Flash Heal is no longer increased by 30% in PvP combat, but they are increasing it overall. I think it's about a 10% buff overall. Healers are getting buffed. Although these look like nerfs, you might be like, well, now my trinket's 90 seconds and look at these nerfs. You're getting massive buffs. So check it out in the video. I'll link at the end of this one. For Shadow, Focused Will now reduces physical damage taken by 15% and magic damage taken by 5%. It was previously all damage by 10% for Shadow Priest. So this is a nice adjustment. And I really like these approaches towards defense on classes. For example, Hunters were immune to dots, but didn't have really reliable defensive damage reduction to immediate burst damage. So changing Feign Death to address that. And now Focused Will, Shadow Priest really struggle with things like Windwalker Monks and Fury Warriors, giving them a little bit more defense against that archetype, and then lowering their defense against dot damage by only providing 5% damage reduction. I think it's these types of adjustments that are going to put the classes in a much better position instead of just feeling like you're hard countered or you're hard countering something else. So I do like this direction overall. For Restoration Shaman, Healing Surge is no longer increased by 20%. Healing Wave has been increased by 20%, down from 56, so 36% nerf. Again, offsetting from the buffs that happened above. For Warlock now specifically, Demon Skin is now granting an additional 40 to 90% armor increase. That is a really big increase, and I mean, Warlock could be a monster with that level of armor. An absolute beast. I mean, that is an insane amount of armor. Now, Warlock definitely needed a little bit of help, I think. when it came to that type of durability, but they're in a similar boat to Shadow Priest where they don't really take dot damage. They can just drain life, passively heal through dots, and they don't really rot. So giving them this bolster of defense against the thing that they're weak against without offsetting that a bit against the strength like they have with the other specs, I think is kind of going to miss the mark for Warlock in this position. For Affliction, we're making some adjustments to Affliction with the goal of allowing Warlocks to opt into spending soul shards to reduce the amount of global cooldown spent applying damage over time and curse effects to enemies, so more time can be spent on higher impact spells. Rapid Contagions is being removed. New PvP talent Jinx. Casting a curse now applies corruption and agony to your target, but curses now cost 1 soul shard. So you can apply Curse of Tongues and it's going to apply corruption and agony? I mean, it's almost like a soul burn soul swap. That's kind of crazy. And corruption damage is going to get buffed by 15%. Agony damage is getting buffed by 15%. Unstable affliction damage is getting buffed by 15%. And Oblivion is going to cost 1 less soul shard. It's going to cost 2. Rampant afflictions now reduces the damage of unstable affliction by 50%, was previously 25. So it's a bit offset from the buff here overall. But I mean, this is going to really open up your global cooldowns to maybe play some Drain Soul builds or Haunt builds that I was actually really enjoying in this patch. And with the armor buff, could likely make them a lot more competitive. Certainly, Affliction Warlock is looking like a dangerous spec for sure with these changes coming in. Now, for Warrior, a new PvP talent, Safeguard Intervene now has 2 charges. Oh my god, it's OP. And reduces the ally's damage taken by 20% for 5 seconds. Intervene's cooldown, however, is going to be increased by 10 seconds. Oh, that's crazy strong. That is so strong. Oh my god, I mean, even with a 10-second increase, that is crazy strong. It's just Bark Skin for 5 seconds. With 2 charges, and it gives you more mobility too. But having like you can intervene to an ally, and then intervene back to your other ally if you're playing a melee cleave or something. If you wanted mobility with this, ooh, the fact that it's just flat damage reduction. I don't know if it should be maybe focused towards physical, as opposed to magic or all damage, but that seems really OP. New PvP talent, Battlefield Commander. Your shout abilities have additional effects. Battle Shout increases stamina by 3%. That's really OP. Even just 3% extra HP on with how high the health pools are going to be, it seems really OP. Piercing Howl roots targets for 2 seconds. Okay. They're giving you like Thunderclap root almost from Prot Warrior. Berserker Shout, range increased by 8 yards. I still don't see anybody playing this. Intimidating Shout, cooldown reduced by 15 seconds. That would have been a bigger deal if they didn't adjust the healer trinket CD, I think, being able to get a fear like that, but definitely going to give you more utility in controlling the match. Rallying Cry removes movement impairing effects and grants 30% movement speed to allies. Now, movement impairing effects, does that include roots? So you can rally out of a root, or does that only include slows? Because if you can rally out of a root, that's crazy good. Thunderous Roar, targets receive 5% more damage from all sources while bleeding. From all sources? You're going to just give 5% damage to everyone in your team? Or is it only your spells? Because only your spells is not that big of a deal. But if it's 5% damage from your whole team, like what is going? Warriors getting so many buffs. Storm of Destruction has been redesigned. Reduces the cooldown of Ravager and Bladestorm by 30%. And Ravager and Bladestorm also snare the targets by 70%. Oh my god. Storm of Destruction is now available as a PvP talent for Fury and Protection Warrior. They're trying to get Ravager working for Fury Warrior. I don't see that happening, but oh my god, Warlock and Warrior are looking nuts. And I mean, in the other video that you can check out at the end of this, Rogues look really nasty. But this is some exciting stuff for Warrior and Warlock. Still somewhat concerned about the PvP trinket cooldown, though. So maybe we need to keep an eye on that. But a lot of this is really good. A lot of this is offsetting changes. And I'm a bit worried about Warlock survivability and the healer trinket most as the biggest concerns for this for PvP specifically. Other than that, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to thumbs up, comment down below, and subscribe so that you never miss a video or an update or entertaining and educational content. Other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.